In our last episode, we talked about why chasing money doesn't work and why organizing your life around outcomes eventually burns you out. Today, I want to go a layer deeper than that because even when people fix the money problem, many still feel strangely empty. And there's a reason for that. Most people think something is wrong with them. They assume they've lost motivation or discipline or the drive. But that's not really the real issue. What's missing is something far more important, and almost no one talks about it. The emptiness you feel, it's not sadness, it's not depression. It's the absence of felt meaning. You can be busy without being alive, and a lot of people are. You could be successful without feeling fulfilled. And that's why people scroll on their screens at night or watch TV instead of sleeping. Why they overwork things that they don't really care about. Why even on good days, they feel strangely hollow. Life starts to feel mechanical. And when life feels mechanical, everything requires more effort. Your discipline and your focus fades out. Motivation becomes something that you chase instead of something that just shows up naturally. Here's the part that most people miss. Success and money solves your survival problems, but it doesn't actually solve meaning problems. Success answers the question, can I make it? And meaning answers the question, why am I doing this at all? And if meaning is missing, even a well-built life will eventually go dim. Most people were never taught this or taught to organize their lives around meaning. They were taught to organize around safety, around approval, stability, and comforts. Now, none of that's wrong, but none of it actually creates aliveness in your life. And you don't feel alive because you made it. You feel alive because your life is pointed somewhere that you respect. It usually doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens quietly. You take a job because it makes sense and you need the money. Then you take on more responsibility because that's what responsible people do. And your days fill up. Your calendar gets full. You're productive and you seem successful on the outside because you're busy. You're dependable. You wake up, you check your phone, you handle what's urgent, and you move from one obligation to the next. And then weeks turn into months, and months turn into years. Nothing is really wrong, but somewhere along the way, you stop making deliberate choices, and you start reacting to whatever's in front of you. You follow the script. You check the boxes. You stay busy. And slowly, without even noticing, your life stops feeling like it belongs to you. And when that happens, people don't usually confront it. They numb it. They end up working more. They chase money harder. They scroll longer at night. They fill their quiet moments with noise and distraction. Why do we do this? Because stillness would force the question that you've been avoiding. Here's where the real shift happens. Most people spend their lives asking a tactical question like, what should I do next? What should I work on? What should I fix? What should I chase? And that question will keep you busy, but it doesn't give your life any direction. The better question is this: what kind of life am I organizing on a day-to-day basis? Because whether you realize it or not, you are organizing something. Your calendar, your routines, your habits, they're all an organization. And together, they form your life. Every decision you make reinforces that structure. What you say yes to, what you tolerate, what your attention goes to, how your days actually unfold. And if you don't consciously choose the organizing principle of your life, one is going to choose you. And it's usually fear or a habit or other people's expectations. Aliveness and That's what we're talking about here. Only comes back when meaning becomes the center of gravity, your center. When you organize your activities around the things that you do each day. That's the difference between living on autopilot and actually steering your life. This is where most people get stuck. They hear meaning and think it's a big dramatic revelation, like you're supposed to wake up one day and suddenly know your purpose. And that's not how this works. Aliveness isn't found, it's built. And it's built by how you structure your days. Because your life is not your intentions. Your life is your calendar and your habits and your actions and your environment. So when I say organizing a life that restores aliveness, I mean three very practical things. And the first is stop living in reaction mode. Most people wake up and immediately enter the world's priorities, their phone, news, messages, problems, obligations, and that sets the focus. And then they wonder why they feel flat. If your day begins in reaction, your life becomes reaction. So here's the first structured move. Protect your first hour. I do this. I get up early and I walk or I sit, no screens, no phone for at least a half an hour. And I think about the day ahead and what would make today feel like it mattered. And I usually think about three things, not 10, just three. If you can't do an hour or even 30 minutes, do 15 minutes. It's really so simple, and you'll see more aliveness immediately. Number two is install one alive block each and every day. An alive block is a 30 to 90 minute block of time where you do something that builds you, expresses you, moves you toward a direction that you respect. Not entertainment, not distractions, and not recovery. That's really avoidance. Examples of alive blocks might be you're writing on the thing that you keep postponing, training your body in a way that challenges you, listening or learning a skill that scares you a little, building the business or the project that you actually care about, having a real conversation with someone that you've been avoiding. Here's why this works. When what you do lines up with what actually matters to you, your body knows it before your mind does. Your energy comes back. Your focus sharpens. You feel more present in your own life. And that feeling is aliveness. So if your week has 0 alive blocks, the problem isn't motivation, it's structure. You've organized your time in a way that leaves no room for anything that makes you feel real. Just start small with this. Just do 4 alive blocks in a week. It's enough to feel the shift. Then over time, you build toward doing 1 most days. Not to be rigid, but to remind yourself consistently that you're steering again. And number 3, reduce what drains your life force. Now, this is the part that people skip. They try to add meaning without subtracting what's killing it. So ask yourself this honestly. What do I do every day that makes me feel smaller? Look at where your energy is and where it's actually going. Saying yes to things that you quietly resent. Living in constant low-grade drama. Spending your days in environments that flatten you. Feeding your mind content that keeps you anxious and scattered. Working in ways that feel pointless just to stay busy. None of these are dramatic on their own, but together they add up and drain the life out of you. So no, you don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need to blow up your life. What you do need is to stop letting your days be run by things that you don't respect. Because aliveness doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from creating space for what actually matters to then show up. Let me make this practical. If your life feels flat, try this for the next 7 days. Step 1, choose one direction, not 5, just one. Something you can point your life toward. For example, I'm rebuilding my health. I'm building something that's mine. I'm repairing my marriage. I'm developing a skill that I respect. I'm creating more freedom in my life. One direction, because aliveness comes from direction, not variety. Step 2, make it visible. Write it down. Put it where you'll see it. If you can't see it, your nervous system is going to forget it. And step 3, schedule your alive blocks consistently. Don't wait until you feel like it. Schedule it. Just 4 alive blocks in a week. It's enough to feel the shift. For example, 2 or 3 weekday blocks to build or learn something new. 1 longer block on the weekend for deep work, like health or a skill that you want to master. Because if you don't schedule aliveness, your life is going to schedule numbness. And step 4, add barriers to distractions. Drift into old patterns, it's automatic. Aliveness is by design. So add 1 small barrier against distraction, like the phone stays out of your bedroom. There's no social media before the alive block. No email before priorities are set. And entertainment only after the effort that takes place or some movement. Now, these aren't moral rules, they're just structural support. You're not trying to be disciplined, you're building a life that can support you. You don't need dozens of examples to see this work. Take someone who's successful on paper but feels empty. They don't need a new job. They don't need a new identity. They choose one direction that's theirs. They schedule a few alive blocks each week. They remove one daily drain. And within a couple of weeks, something shifts. Not because they changed who they are, but because they stopped living in a reaction mode. And that's how aliveness comes back, not through insight, but through structure. Here's why someday never changes anything. Someday has no structure, no schedule, no investment. And without cost, nothing gets rewired. Your identity isn't shaped by intentions, it's shaped by what you do repeatedly. Day to day is where your identity is built, and identity is what creates consistency. That's why waiting to feel alive, it just doesn't work. Aliveness actually shows up after you start steering, after you take those small, repeated actions that prove to you week by week that your life is actually moving in a direction that you respect. And that's how momentum begins. Not someday, now, today, through a structure that you set up for yourself. Okay, that's the core of this. Now, here are some questions that come up with this idea. First question is, what if I don't know what feels meaningful to me yet? Well, that's normal because it's not a problem. Meaning usually doesn't appear as a clear answer. It shows up when you're in motion and doing something. So pay attention to what you lose track of time doing, the kind of things that leave you tired but satisfied, and what you'd still care about even if no one even noticed. You don't need that aha moment first. You just need movement, meaning that reveals itself after you start organizing your life differently, not before. Question 2, what if my current responsibilities don't feel meaningful at all? I don't like my work or the routine of my life. Then don't romanticize them, but don't abandon them either. Meaning isn't always in what you're doing. Sometimes it's in why you're doing it and what it's funding. You may not love your job, but you can still organize your life so that it supports something that does matter to you. And that's why alive blocks are the trick and something you should invest in. They prevent your day-to-day life from collapsing into obligation. Next question, how do I stay consistent when motivation fades? Now, I've talked about this before, not to rely on motivation. Instead, you rely on structure and changing that structure because motivation is never lasting. It's emotional. And structure, it's mechanical. When aliveness is a scheduled activity, when your alive block is on your calendar, you show up even on flat days. And here's the paradox. Action is what creates motivation, not the other way around. Once you get this, things will start changing. So don't wait to feel ready, just show up. Let the feeling catch up later. It works. And the final question, how do I know if I'm actually moving toward aliveness? Well, you'll notice it in small, unmistakable ways because you'll feel more present. You recover faster from stress. You're less interested in numbing out. And most important, you respect yourself a little more at the end of the day. Aliveness isn't about fireworks every day. It's a quiet sense of, I'm steering my life again. And that feeling compounds. Listen, your life doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to impress anyone. It just needs to be pointed somewhere that you respect. Because when your life belongs to you, your energy returns, clarity returns, and momentum returns. So I'll leave you with this. What would you change in the structure of your week this week so that your life starts feeling alive again, day to day, not someday? Think about it. Then do one thing, not 10, just one. That's how aliveness comes back. I'll show you more ways to do this and to be productive at the same time at Zygon Academy. And I'll see you on the inside.